Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with the love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums... Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? Hello? We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo News. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi.
Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to Rossifari Zoo News, your look at everything going on in the world of zoos, aquariums, conservation, and general animal weirdness. Quick reminder, since I know I'll have some new listeners this week, Zoo News is a crowdsourced Zoo News program. So if you see anything that you think would be Zoo News worthy, go ahead and tag me in it on the socials at Rossifari, on TikTok at RossifariPod, or email me, rossifaripod@gmail.com. And I'll say your name at the end of the episode. And of course, the reason that I will have some new ears on me this week is that happens every year when I attend the annual AZA conference. And that is what I did for a couple of days this week. And so I'm not going to talk about my conference experience with y'all right now, because I am going to be doing my annual AZA conference recap on Tuesday, featuring a bunch of episodes from people at different facilities, and even from Dan Ash, the president and CEO of the AZA, and also a relatively frequent Rossifari contributor lately, which has been a lot of fun. So yeah, you'll get to hear all of that, including kind of what my insane travel was like, because y'all, oh my gosh, this was a lot of my trips are whirlwinds, but this trip was the whirlwindiest of all of the trips I have ever taken. But I am now back in Philadelphia and back working on $1 Million Quartet at Walnut Street Theater. So again, if you happen to be in the Philly area and want to come see me do my thing, that is a great opportunity to do so. And we will be opening later this month and performing until I think our last show is November 2nd. So with all of that said, I want to take the rest of my time here before we get to the official Zoo News to talk about two things that I've been approached about recently and that I wanted to share with y'all. The first of these was an email that I received from Luke Duncan, who is at the University of Warwick, which is in the UK. Luke is running a study, running a survey looking at the species atypical behaviors that may be expressed by great apes in human care, and how the various caregivers, such as keepers and curators and veterinarians and such, perceive these behaviors. And while that might sound like an almost anti-zoo type thing, it's very much not that. And in fact, the survey has full approval not only from the University of Warwick Humanities and Social Sciences Research and Ethics Committee, but also the full support of BIAZA, IAZA, and the AZA. So this is like a very cool thing where the goal is to provide valuable insight into the welfare implications of atypical vocalization and also behavioral expression. And the hope is also that it will contribute towards an open access online database of atypical behavior and vocalizations in great apes in human care. And you can tell that I am reading this from the request that I got about this. But basically, I think this is a really cool idea. And so the hope here and why Luke contacted me was that, the hope is to try to get this survey to as many people in the field as possible who work with great apes and can, help with this. So I have been sending this link out privately to people, and I'm hoping that they are contributing. But I'm also going to link it in my show notes this week, just in case you fit the bill as somebody who works with great apes and you can help with this. So I just think it's really cool that Luke reached out and that I've been able to send this specifically to multiple great ape keepers. I think it's an awesome survey. I think that the study is going to be fascinating, and I hope that the results are coming in quickly and effectively. So, Luke, great job on this, and I can't wait to hear more about what you learn. And thank you for letting me share the work that you're doing, at first with just people that I know, and now with my wider audience. I think that's very cool. And then the other email that came to me is a really cool opportunity for all of you in the audience to make an impact for wildlife out in the globe. And this is through a project called Shots for Spots. And this is being run by our good friend and recent guest, Mike McClure, and also with a much earlier guest who's also a great friend, Dave from the Katie Adamson Conservation Foundation. And already, without me even saying what the project is, just hearing that those two names are attached to it should make you want to help and want to contribute. And the idea here is that dogs in the wild need help, not just for themselves, but for endangered species that we care about. And so the Katie Adamson Conservation Foundation is heading over to Nepal and partnering with the Animal Treatment Center in Kathmandu to provide distemper vaccines to local dogs, which will help to protect nearby endangered leopards, red pandas, and other animals that are wildly susceptible to distemper. And actually, while they're taking care of that whole situation, they're also going to spay and neuter the dogs and provide any essential medical care to improve the dog's general health and to, by spaying and neutering, also manage the population responsibly. Basically, what that means is that the villages will still have their village dogs, which is a big part of life over in Nepal, but the animals won't be running around in the forests angry, hungry, and breeding constantly and spreading crazy diseases to endangered animals that we all love. So you literally can help like a red panda, a leopard, and a dog with one donation. How flippin' cool is that? It's very cool. And here's the best part. It's not that expensive. Would you like to help take care of a dog? It is a $30 donation to do all of that for a dog. $30. So I am going to include a link in the show notes. I am going to be posting this on my socials. I would love nothing more than to see Rossifari come together to just really help vaccinate a lot of these dogs. You know, I always get nervous about fundraisery things because I could literally do one every week. And I know that if we start asking for too much, then we won't have as big of an impact when we do go all in on a project. But I think this is an incredible project. I think it's really important. And I love that it can help so many animals while also helping cute, adorable dogs. So with all of that said, please consider contributing. Check out my socials and also check out the show notes and go and help Shots for Spots and help these amazing humans help amazing animals. And with all of that said, it's time for All right, so we're going to get to our headline story in a second, but before we do, I want to make sure that y'all hang out for other news this week towards the end of the podcast because the stories go off the rails. So with that said, our headline story this week is, as I mentioned, the AZA conference was this week, and what that means is that accreditation hearings took place. And so these are the facilities that earned their AZA accreditation this time around. Assiniboine Park Zoo, Binder Park Zoo, Brook Green Gardens, Buttonwood Park Zoo, Central Park Zoo, the Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Gardens, Cleveland Metro Parks Zoo, Connecticut's Beardsley Zoo, Everland Zoo, Franklin Park Zoo, the High Desert Museum, Idaho Falls Zoos at Tatfus Park, Palo Alto Junior Museum and Zoo, the Philadelphia Zoo, the Potawatomi Zoo, Prospect Park Zoo, Queens Zoo, Roosevelt Park Zoo, Saginaw Children's Zoo, the St. Louis Zoo, the Santa Ana Zoo, Sedgwick County Zoo, Seoul Zoo, Staten Island Zoo, Sunset Zoological Park, Tracy Aviary, Utah's Hogle Zoo, Virginia Zoo, the Walter D. Stone Memorial Zoo, Woodland Park Zoo, and Zoo Montana. And while it is always great to celebrate those wins, they also announced that the Greater Vancouver Zoo was denied accreditation at this time. So yeah, I think it's always great to celebrate the places that are accredited, even if, we all knew most of those were going to get it. It's like, oh yeah, Cincinnati's not going to get accreditation. Come on. But I think it's also worth pointing out that, there are still facilities that apply for accreditation and don't get it. It really is a very thorough and challenging process. So congrats to all of the facilities that maintained or regained their accreditation this time around. And to facilities that are on the Pathways program or working on getting accreditation, let this be a reminder that you really got to do the thing and do it right, because not everyone gets their accreditation. It is anything but just a quick, boom, stamped type situation. And that is why I love the AZA so much. And that brings us to our births for the week. Only got a couple this week. Our friends at Sedgwick County Zoo have welcomed a Guam kingfisher chick to the family. He has been named Cha-Cha, which means fussy, choosy, or hard to please in Chamorro, the native language of the Mariana Islands. And he got this name because of his bold personality that was on full display during the hand-rearing process. And this is actually the first time that a Guam kingfisher has been fully raised by the keeper staff at the zoo, so a huge congrats to the team there. A new Addix calf named Miko has been born at the St. Louis Zoo. Miko is bonding with his mom, McKenna, behind the scenes. As one of the most endangered animals in the world, every Addix calf birth is a huge deal. And I think a lot of people kind of discredit the idea, not discredit, but just don't think of the idea of endangered hoofstock or just how cute hoofstock can be. But this Addix calf is redonkulous, y'all. Got to check it out on their socials. And then Dickerson Park Zoo has welcomed a Chicoan peccary birth. Actually, it's twins. Born to mom, Relish, and dad, Flash, the two are doing quite well, with both first-time parents taking great care of the kiddos, which you always love to see. And then, of course, we go to the flip side and we say goodbye to some special animals this week. Lionel, the red panda, has passed away at Longleat. He was one of 4 pandas at the zoo and was 8 years old at the time of his passing. Between being seen on the zoo's television show and doing guest encounters, Lionel was one of the most famous red pandas in all of Europe. With International Red Panda Day coming up on Saturday, the zoo will be celebrating his life along with their celebration of all things red panda that day, which is really a fitting tribute for a remarkable panda gone too soon. Oliver the rabbit has passed away at Elmwood Park Zoo. During a recent routine exam, Oliver presented with an oral mass that was determined to be a very invasive form of cancer that is way too long for me to try and say properly, so the decision was made to euthanize him. Oliver was an ambassador animal with a huge personality. He loved attention and meeting people, and was often left to roam freely, with keeper supervision, of course, in the grassy areas of the zoo or in indoor ambassador areas. Oliver would literally beg for pets and scritches whenever anyone was close. In the times I was in the ambassador building at EPZ, he would always stretch his paws up and make himself as tall as possible to try and get some love. And when that little head was right there, you just couldn't help but reach in and give it some pats. Honestly, he always got that love because it was just impossible to say no to that little cutie. Over the years, thousands of guests interacted with Oliver, and I know they all fell in love with him just as much as I did, which helps to build that connection to wildlife that is so essential to saving it. Altina Wildlife Park has said goodbye to Shaka, a 21-year-old giraffe that called Altina home for 18 years. He was diagnosed with ringabone, an irreversible form of osteoarthritis, over a year ago, and enjoyed an extra year of life keeping his rascally personality right until the end. He even stole some of his son's food on the way to the night yards shortly before his passing. And that passing, well, it's sad, but it was quick, and there didn't appear to be any suffering, and he will be greatly, greatly missed. Henry Vilas Zoo recently bid farewell to two incredible animals. A 14-year-old meerkat named Franklin passed away this week after living to an incredible age. So the average life expectancy of the species is between 6 and 8 years, and Franklin made it all the way to 14. In his time at the zoo, he fathered 8 meerkats and did a great job helping to raise them all. He was also incredibly vocal, and one of the hardest things for the keeper staff since his passing is honestly just how quiet the area has gotten. And then the zoo also said goodbye to Slothra the sloth. She was 44 years old, another insanely old age, since even in human care, Hoffman's two-toed sloths tend to make it to around 32 at the oldest. This lover of blueberries had been an ambassador for many years before retiring to a quiet life in the aviary at the zoo, and also will be greatly missed. And then last but not least in this section, Gino the gorilla has passed away at Disney's Animal Kingdom. He was 44 years old at the time of his passing and leaves behind an incredible legacy, 14 offspring, global contributions to gorilla care in his name, and the lasting memories of every cast member and guest he inspired. He was known for being playful and having a gentle sense of humor. And Animal Kingdom is just not going to be the same without him. And moving on from births and deaths, we get to the rest of our zoo news section. So in recent episodes, I have mentioned the birth of a red panda singlet at the Buffalo Zoo and also one at Binder Park Zoo. Well, now the two are hanging out together at the Buffalo Zoo. That's right, y'all. Red Panda Kindergarten is yet again in session. So 2 years ago, it was at Greensboro Science Center, and last year it was at Seneca Park Zoo in Rochester. And now this year, it's the Buffalo Zoo that gets to help raise singlets that are now put together, so no longer singlets. They're still singlets, but you get what I'm saying. Anyway, red panda cubs learn from playing and interacting with their siblings. So singlets that have to be hand-reared are often at a behavioral disadvantage because they don't have siblings or attentive parents to play with. So every year, the SSP looks at the singlets born in these conditions and works on a plan to fix the problem, which often includes sending cubs to different facilities to grow together. Now, for many years, what this looked like was that Sarah Glass, who is the SSP coordinator and also the person in charge of the panda program at Zoo Knoxville, would just take in all of these hand-reared singlets that couldn't be placed with their parents, and she would raise them together, and her team would raise them together, and they did incredible work. But, she realized that it's not really great to just have one facility that is able to do that, and so she gave up all of the adorableness of having all of the cubs coming to her, and instead entrusted the Greensboro Science Center to do it, and then Seneca Park Zoo, and now the Buffalo Zoo. So I just love seeing each red panda kindergarten class, and it is the cutest thing, and it makes me so happy. And congrats to the Buffalo Zoo for getting to do this. And while I can't make any promises yet, I did spend some time at the conference talking to the new president and CEO of the Buffalo Zoo, Lisa New, and she seemed pretty interested in the whole Rossifari thing, and our good friend Tiffany James, who you've heard from a bunch, was there vouching for me, and Lisa loves her. So fingers and toes crossed that we can share some stuff from the amazing Buffalo Zoo with y'all in the near future. Okay, so Now, this next story is going to be a complete 180 from that one. Safari World Zoo in Thailand has closed their predator section after a pack of lions mauled a 58-year-old zookeeper to death. The autopsy, which is the human version of a necropsy, showed that he suffered multiple deep lacerations, a broken neck, and ruptured arteries after the attack. In total, 5 lions attacked the keeper, led by a 10-year-old male lion named Trump. This is a zoo that has already been in trouble with multiple citations from the Thai government's Department of National Parks for having damaged fences, inadequate warning signs, and other major safety issues. As a matter of fact, the zoo's license has expired and not been renewed yet because of safety standards being below what the government requires. The park has also incurred the wrath of animal lovers everywhere for staged shows featuring kickboxing orangutans and hula-hooping elephants. So put those last 2 sentences together and you realize that the safety standards at this park are actually below those of what a government that finds kickboxing orangutans acceptable allows. So that is just not okay. So yeah, from all of my research, it sounds like this place is a disaster. And while I truly hate to hear about the loss of the keeper, I hope the silver lining in this story is that more attention is brought to the problematic stuff going on at this facility and that it is either properly addressed and that not just the safety hazards and things that led to a death, but also the other bad things like orangutan kickboxing and elephant hula hooping are all eventually shut down. This place, as it is, should not be allowed to exist. But okay, let's get happy again. On a much happier note, actually, our friends at the New England Aquarium's Sea Turtle Rescue Center officially announced their statistics for this year's cold stun season, and it is so impressive. The facility helped treat and care for 435 Kemp's Ridleys, 39 green, and 62 loggerhead sea turtles. Now, if you haven't heard my interview from the Turtle Hospital, you have to go back and check it out. It's really touching, and I maybe cry when I attend a sea turtle release. Just saying. But I'm always so impressed by the incredible team at the New England Aquarium, and especially at their Sea Turtle Hospital. And now we have some really cool research from the Smithsonian this week, and I'm definitely not just including it in here because I love Natalie and Ellie at the National Zoo so much. I'm not really, but I do love them. Anyway, the research in question shows that prairie dogs and grasshoppers help nutrients cycle faster in the plains than the bison and cattle that call the area home. Now, previously, it had been believed that large herbivores were the ones doing the most work when it came to cycling nutrients, but it turns out it's the little guys that eat plants, excrete waste, and burrow through the soil, increasing the amount of carbon and nitrogen underground, which are then absorbed by plants growing in the soil, where they are then absorbed by other herbivores when they eat said plants. So the prairie dog towns are where most of this happens, and they often become the homes of grasshoppers as well. And the grasshoppers actually expedite the process. So it's a really interesting look at the circle of life on the plains. And it's a really big change in our understanding of how the entire, circle of life works out there. So yeah, always amazing work being done by the Smithsonian. The North Carolina Aquarium at Fort Fisher has announced that it will be closing to undergo a $65 million renovation and expansion. There's going to be a ton of amazing stuff happening, and it is rumored that it's going to take around 2.5 years to get it all done. So I'm not quite sure if that's how long it will take or if the aquarium will be closed for the whole time. But it sounds like the aquarium is going to be closed for quite a while, but when it reopens, it's going to be really impressive, possibly one of the most impressive aquariums on the East Coast. And then last but not least, in zoo news, yesterday was the 150th birthday of the Cincinnati Zoo. So happy birthday to one of my happiest places in the world and the second oldest zoo, I believe, in the country.
Stereotypical animal podcast theme song. Here to bring to conservation news.
All right, so some huge news out of Australia this week as the first ever chlamydia vaccine for koalas has been approved. The vaccine, which has been in development for over a decade, is a huge step in saving this endangered animal. Chlamydia is a huge issue in koala populations and can cause urinary tract infections, blindness, infertility, and even death in certain cases, all of which are huge problems for a species on the brink. Especially those last two. The disease has been so rampant in recent years that it accounts for roughly half the koala deaths in the wild, and some koala colonies have as high as a 70% infection rate. Now, the vaccine is a single dose that doesn't require a booster, which is obviously a huge deal when you are trying to vaccinate wild animals. The strain of chlamydia that affects koalas is different than the one that affects humans, and while it is treatable with antibiotics, those antibiotics destroy gut bacteria in koalas in such a way that the treatment is often more likely to be fatal than the disease itself. So the current plan is for the vaccine to start rolling out in January, and I'm really excited about this because koalas are awesome and adorable. So yay, science. And speaking of cool science, for years now, we've known about the concept of bird-friendly glass, which has stickers or etched patterns or whatever, which birds see, and hopefully they see those patterns and then don't fly into the invisible to them glass. And one of the problems with the implementation of this glass is simply that many people don't want the visual distractions on their own buildings. Well, now Canadian architects have designed a new type of bird-friendly glass that helps to fix that problem. The glass actually features wind-activated holographic feathers that shift and flutter with the breeze, creating a dynamic visual barrier that warns birds to stay away from the glass. The pattern is bold and beautiful, and a lot of building owners that were turned off by the relatively ugly, kind of static cling-looking things that are used before this have adopted these panels as a type of art for their buildings. And on top of helping to mitigate the whole aesthetic problem, these panels are unaffected by changing light conditions because of their holographic nature. So while the former etchings or stickers were more effective under certain lighting conditions and at certain times of the day than others, these holographic feathers work under all conditions equally well. So it's a huge deal. It'll save more birds, and it makes the people who care about their buildings being pretty more content. So win-win-win all around. And, you know, I love that story. I love that story because it is always fun to see conservation successes. And this next story is one of those, but it's even cooler because it's a success that is quantified by adorable baby animals. So for the second year in a row, Scottish wildcat kittens have been seen in Cairngorms National Park, with 5 litters of kittens recorded this year. This is great news because 28 adults of the species were reintroduced to the wild over the past 2 years, and now the number of kittens born in the last 2 years is actually higher than that. There are over 30 documented kitten births to this population of 28 adults. The Scottish wildcat is Britain's most endangered mammal, so this is a huge deal and proof that the reintroduction process is working. And last but not least in conservation news this week, we have a story about the Trump administration. And I'm talking, of course, about the president guy, not the lion who led the mauling of a zookeeper. All right, so another attempt by the Trump administration to walk back protections for endangered animals has failed. H.R. 65, known as the Armed Forces Endangered Species Exemption Act, has failed in the House with bipartisan voting, keeping it from advancing. The bill would have exempted the entire Department of Defense, or I guess it's the Department of War now, and any of its contractors from following the Endangered Species Act, banned ESA protections on military lands, which are critical safe havens for species like red wolves, California condors, and Florida panthers, and allowed military activities to harm or kill endangered species without any oversight. So this is a huge victory for wild animals, and I am so excited about it. And I love that it's a bipartisan effort that killed this bill. Very cool stuff.
It's time for other news. It's time for other news. Hey, all right now, it's time. It's time for other news. Hey, it's a segue to the part called other news.
All right, y'all, we got 3 stories in this section this week, and they're all a little crazy. So first of all, a nurse in Kentucky recently saved a drunk raccoon by giving it CPR. No, really. The nurse in question, Misty Combs, heard a weird chittering noise from a dumpster and went to investigate. In there, she found Otis, a raccoon that lived in the area. But he was drunk off his gourd. It turns out that a local distillery had dumped large bags of fermented peaches inside the dumpster after using the fruit to make its infused peach moonshine. Otis started snacking on the peaches and basically overdosed on the fermented fruit. When Misty got to him, Otis was unconscious. It was actually some of his raccoon friends they heard chittering, and well below a normal body temperature. The nurse performed CPR on the drunken raccoon and saved his life, because of course she did. And honestly, all of this sounds like almost a too bad to be true movie, but it really happened. And it is. It's right out of Hollywood, though. The raccoon had a name, despite being a wild animal. And yes, as the person who saved Felix the beaver, I get it. The hero's name is Misty Combs, which just sounds like a fictional character. And apparently she even said, "Not on my watch," before saving the little guy. I could not love this story more. Police in Maine recently got a call about a screaming woman and rushed to the scene to alleviate the situation. When they got to the scene, instead of a crazed woman, they found Simon, the goat, contentedly screaming his head off at home. His owner says that Simon is just a goat that loves to scream, and so he does it all the time, and no attempt at training or anything else has worked to make him scream less. And I find that hilarious in and of itself. But it also reminds me of a story, and I've probably told this one on here before, but yeah, well, it's my podcast, so you get to listen to it again. And that story is about foxes. Now, I don't know if you know this, but the fox's mating call, specifically red foxes, is a sound you have to hear to believe. It is an insane sound. And specifically, it sounds like a young woman screaming, crying out, in a panic, in desperation. And the way I discovered this is that back when I was living in Ardmore, my building faced this big open park, and there were foxes there, and I got to see them a lot. It was amazing. But one night, I was dead asleep when I heard a young woman screaming out in terror in the park across from my house. And couldn't have that. And it was so drastic and so immediate and so terrifying that I grabbed my phone and I was going to call 911, but it was too immediate. Someone was clearly being murdered or assaulted or something. And so even though I grabbed my phone, I ran outside to see what was the matter. And y'all, I sleep in like short shorts and yeah, nothing else. And I just ran out there, just a tiny little pair of shorts, ran out to save this woman, to be the hero. And instead, I saw this adorable little fox open its mouth and scream like a woman. Luckily, no one saw me, but I felt like an absolute idiot after that. Although, hey, at least I went and helped, right? And then finally, in other news this week, researchers have recently discovered that bottlenose dolphins are able to recognize each other through taste. And no, I don't mean they lick each other. Instead, they taste urine to find out if it's the urine of their friend. So it's already known that dolphins name themselves with their own unique series of clicks and whistles, and that other dolphins will use these names as they get to know them. And it was actually while looking into that phenomenon that researchers first noticed that dolphins would often swim through dissipating pee that had just been left by other dolphins with their mouths open as they swam through it. So this led researchers to take pee samples of dolphins and release them into the ocean in front of other dolphins while playing the name calls of dolphins. Now, in some cases, they played the name sound of the dolphin the pee came from, and in other cases, they played a different name. The dolphins tended to keep their mouths open longer while sampling the pee of dolphins they knew, and they also showed different familiarity behaviors when the name and the pee matched correctly and was one of their friends. So, yeah, apparently dolphins taste pee to see if their friends are close and get excited when they hear the name clicks and taste their friend's pee. Other news was weird this week, y'all.
Animal, animal, animal holidays. Animal, animal, animal holidays.
All right, so for your animal holidays, let's see, it's September, which is Save the Tiger Month and also Save the Koala Month. And hey, there's a vaccine we learned about that's going to help do that. And then for your individual days, we've got the 20th, which is International Red Panda Day. And Coastal Cleanup Day, but it's International Red Panda Day, a whole day dedicated to red panda conservation. So make sure you're checking out Safe Red Panda on the socials. Make sure you're checking out Red Panda Network. Go to a zoo with red pandas if you can. Do all the things because it is International Red Panda Day and also Coastal Cleanup Day, but mostly International Red Panda Day. The 21st is the start of Sea Otter Awareness Week. The 22nd is Elephant Appreciation Day and World Rhino Day. The 24th is World Gorilla Day and also National Bluebird of Happiness Day. Okay. And then the 25th is National Lobster Day. But of course, the most important day, once again, is the 20th, which is International Red Panda Day. Yay! All right, so there you have it, folks. Another episode of Rossifari Zoo News is in the books. I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to my Red Panda level patrons, Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, who is also here for stickers, Kevin Williams, and Cormac McMuffin. Meow. Then I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who contributed stories to this week's episode, including Anya Keene, Colleen Linehan, Kim Cooley-Croninger, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Emily Rockbuck, Anna McEachran, Miles Rossi, Lizard Dunlevy, Maddie Patz, Ken Tryon, Dr. Laura Schenk, Holly Page, Luke Duncan, Leah Swift, Crystal Chapman, Ali Malensky, Kay Malensky,
The Malenskys.
Dr. Natalie Taco, Amanda Berg, Sam Evans, Dr. Zoe Rossi, Jay Meredith, Ann Yoshioka, Marianne Rossi, Barbara Bennett, Melissa Reed, Sue Isbell, Kristen Khalil, Ren Robertson, Madeline Weaver, and Sarah Fideli. Thank you all so much for contributing to this week's episode. We'll be back on Tuesday with our 2025 AZA annual recap episode from the conference. And until then, remember, friends, the words, newsy credits backwards, are Steiderk Yiswen.
The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.
Fully raised by the Kiefers. That just happened. Bah.